If you are an AP language and culture student or teacher, then this video is for you because it's about task number 3 on the free response part of the exam, which is the conversation. So let's talk about it. The conversation is 5 responses, 20 seconds, and I call it the beep because the beep indicates when you start and when you end each one of your 20-second responses. And there are 5 of them. Now, why would there be 5? Not a coincidence. There are 5 points on this exam, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And a lot of people think that if you miss one tiny little thing, me included in the past, you can't get a 5. You can. So this video is an addendum to what I've already put out there. Watch the ones below first. And in this video, we're going to add whatever I hadn't added before and some do's and don'ts during the conversation. The first thing is don't go over. Okay, you can go if someone is speaking and they give you the beep and you're at the end of your 20 seconds and you hear the second beep indicating for you to stop. If your response is 1 or 2 words more, go for it. But anything more than 2 words means that the other person has already started talking and you're missing what they're saying. And chances are your reader isn't going to listen when the person who's pre-recorded starts talking again. So again, do not go over the beep more than 1 to 2 words max, because that is enough time between the beep and the other person starting their next response. So just don't go there. 1 to 2 words over the beep, nada más, nothing else. Now, what happens if you are answering the question, and it's kind of a 2-layered question, you get through one part and not the other? Don't freak out. Just move on. Because if you start answering a previous question on the next one, you're not only kind of cutting into the time that you need to answer the question you should be answering, but you're also going backwards, and that can confuse you and the reader. So always move on. Now, what happens if they say something or they ask something that you've already kind of answered? For example, this year's conversation, okay, and that's what I graded at the reading. I graded the conversation and I graded the universal one, which has been published. Not the script, but the idea. So without giving too much information, the prompt was about, first of all, it's informal, almost always is, has been for over a decade. You and your classmate have to plan a trip to a Spanish-speaking country to present in front of your class. So you have to anticipate the questions they're going to ask you and what you're going to say. So obviously, first of all, a Spanish-speaking country is anywhere that is Spanish-speaking only in Latin America, Spain, and Guinea Equatorial, not the US, by the way. So if someone says Brazil, they're not getting a 5. They're just not. They could speak perfectly, but Brazil is not a Spanish-speaking country. So these are moments where, as a reader, that's a definite no. Now, if a student says a Spanish-speaking city within a Spanish-speaking country, like Mexico City, that's fine. But again, it has to be in line with the culture, right? Because if not, what are we doing? It's the AP Spanish Language and Culture exam. So here's a scenario where you said too much, not too much in response. You gave everything that you could and it was 100% appropriate, but then they say something after that kind of lends itself to what you've just said. For example, say that they ask, what Spanish-speaking country would you choose and why? An example would be, okay, I really would like to go to Argentina, specifically Buenos Aires. If they said just Buenos Aires, that's fine too, because of Rio de la Plata, the football scene there, the energy, the people, the sites such as the Avenida de 7 de Julio, the Casa Rosada, some of the 48 neighborhoods such as La Boca, Puerto Madero. Okay, then the beep ends. And you're listening to the next question. Well, what if the next question is, what are some tourist sites that we must check out? That's when you can politely say, oh, as I've already said, do a quick repeat, but then you add more. Because that way, 2 out of your 3 responses are now not only relevant and appropriate, but you have more detail without repetition. So you could add, as I've already said, Casa Rosada, some of the neighborhoods, the 7 de Julio Avenue. But also we could check out a tango show. We could go shopping in the barrio Palermo, Soho, because they have lots of cute shops and especially the leather. You have Teatro Colón, you have great museums such as the Malba, the Museo de Bellas Artes, you have the Eva Perón Museum in Recoleta, the cemetery. So you can repeat a little, but always add on. Speaking of elaborating and adding on, native students sometimes this can be their demise because they get to the answer really quickly. They speak fast, they don't have to think as hard or worry about the grammar as much, not all, but a lot. Their speaking that's their strongest suit, potentially. But say that they're leaving with each response at least 7 or more seconds open without saying anything. It doesn't guarantee that they won't get a 5, but it's just not smart. It's risky. So always fill the time, but fill it appropriately without repetition. That's the other do and don't. Don't leave more than 5-6 seconds free on every response. Fill the time without repeating with appropriate responses. Okay. Now, to get a 5, you have to do everything correctly. Now, sometimes you can have one of the responses lack a little bit, but have 4 other really strong responses. Then you're still a candidate for a 5. So the appropriateness of the task and the relevant details with frequent elaboration, that's what's making you be a candidate for a 5. But what happens if you're doing all of that, but your grammar's poor? You're making a lot of mistakes that impede comprehension. That's what can knock you down to a 4 or a 3. Now, if you're not responding to at least half the questions, then you're probably not getting a 3, 4, or 5 anyways. But say you answer everything, but your grammar and vocab, you're making too many errors and big ones that could prevent the reader from understanding what you're trying to say. That's what lowers it to a 4 or a 3. So those are a couple do's and don'ts in the conversation. Now, a few other things that you might want to prep before practicing any conversations. Your register. It has been informal for forever. If you are, for Spanish speakers, if you're in a country that uses vos, use vos. That's totally fine. If you're just a Spanish learner and you don't know vos, don't use it. Use tu. Write the pronouns down. Decide if you're going to use the plural, is it vosotros or ustedes? Because in Spanish, you have that option. You don't know in a lot of the other languages, but in Spanish, you do. Think of also what are some filler words when I'm thinking and I need to come up with something. And these are words in Spanish, but you can look them up. Pues, bueno, mira, a ver. And then also think of some ways how you can ask their opinion, because even though it's pre-recorded, it's still a conversation. You have to ask questions. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a prompt to say, ask them what they think, or that's what is the most appropriate in that certain situation. So in Spanish, this would be, and if you're using the vos, you have to do the vos form of these. ¿Qué piensas? ¿Qué opinas? ¿Estás de acuerdo? O ¿qué crees? Or no te parece buena idea? So think of these expressions beforehand. Reactions, qué bueno, qué malo, qué lástima, qué buena noticia. Okay, like that's good, that's great, that's good news, it's a shame. And then think of, because a lot of the times you're making plans with someone about something, think of some words such as meeting up with someone. In Spanish, that could be juntarse con, reunirse con, encontrar con. And then if you're working on something, colaborar. And if you're making final edits or cuts or adjustments, finalizar. So learn some of those words, because 9 times out of 10, like I said, you're going to have to ask their opinion, finalize or making plans, meeting up, all those things that are necessary to learn so that you're not stuck in the moment thinking of the verb and not finishing, or the word, and not finishing your idea, putting you in jeopardy of a 4 or lower. And then other expressions such as don't worry, no te preocupes, no pasa nada, or if you want, we can do this, si quieres, podemos hacer esto. These are all good things to have in your memory bank so that when you are approaching the conversation, you are prepared and you're not wasting time coming up with things. You can just use them and move on to the next thing. And there you go. Those are some do and don'ts for task number 3, the conversation. Now, like I said, there are other videos. This is an addendum. All the information is accurate, so check them out in the links below. And if you haven't already followed me on Making Spanish Simple, do so today, because I continue to generate videos and I have several playlists just for AP. So check them out, subscribe, and that way you are the first to get relevant information and videos, not only on parts of the exam, such as this and some do's and don'ts, but me practicing parts of each free response of the exam so that you can get some more inspiration or ideas for when you practice yourself. So there you have it. And mucha suerte. Good luck in this year and AP. It's a wonderful test. It's a wonderful exam. And once you get it down, it becomes second nature to you. So check out all the other videos in the link below, and good luck prepping for this exam.